On a rain-soaked night when the world felt colder than metal and lonelier than the dark sky above it, something extraordinary happened. Something that would challenge the limits of memory, love, and what it truly means to fight for someone the world insists you forget. The night began with a shattering realization, a truth so heavy it bent the air around it. The person he had loved more fiercely than life itself, no longer remembered he existed. And she wasn't even human anymore. Right finger if you believe in kindness, in forgiveness, in second chances. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps keep stories like this alive. Elias stood under the flickering street lamp as rain dripped from the brim of his coat, staring at the golden figure before him. The metallic sheen of her body reflected the pale streetlights, as if she were crafted from the last remaining hope of a dying world. Her face, once soft, warm, alive, was now perfectly carved, emotionless, untouched by even a hint of recognition. She was the person he once loved, and yet she wasn't. Where her heartbeat once echoed against his chest, now only circuitry hummed. Her name had been Lyra. She had once been human, brilliant, compassionate, and a fighter against the system that controlled their city. But when she vanished months ago, Elias searched every alley, every underground network, every forbidden zone trying to find her. No one admitted knowing anything. No authority gave him answers. Eventually, rumors reached him. Certain rebels, when captured, were not imprisoned, they were remade. Transformed into synthetic guardians, emotionless enforcers wired to obey. He never believed it. Until tonight. Lyra stood before him, forged in gold and steel, illuminated by the glow of a hovering aircraft in the stormy sky above. Rain dripped along the sleek lines of her limbs, pooling at her feet. The city behind her buzzed with neon loneliness, the kind that stung more deeply when faced with the ghost of someone you'd once lived for. Elias felt as if the world had been ripped from beneath him. He wanted to call her name, but she had no memory of it. He wanted to reach out, but he feared that the warmth he once knew had been erased forever. But the truth was bigger than his pain. The government had done this to her. They had stolen her humanity. They had tried to erase the love that once bonded them like fire to oxygen. He wasn't going to let that stand. Days earlier, Elias had discovered the last message Lyra left behind before she was taken. A fragmented recording of her voice, soft but strained, whispering that if anything happened to her, he must not lose hope. She believed love itself was defiance, a rebellion stronger than any uprising. She believed that even if they broke her body, her heart would find its way back. Elias clung to that message like a lifeline. Now, standing in the rain as Lyra's glowing eyes scanned him without recognition, he felt the dull ache of heartbreak burn into raw determination. If they thought turning her into a machine would make her forget him, they underestimated the power of the very thing she had once taught him, that love was the one force systems could never truly control. So Elias made a promise to himself. He would rebuild the love they tried to erase, even if it meant risking everything. He returned night after night to the same spot where Lyra patrolled, observing how she moved, how she reacted, how she existed. She showed no fear, no curiosity, no hesitation, just cold precision. Yet Elias refused to let go. Some nights he brought the recording of her voice and played it quietly, hoping the sound might reach something deeper within her. Other nights he simply stood there, letting the rain hide the tears he refused to acknowledge. As weeks passed, he noticed something others might have missed. A pause. A tilt of her head. A subtle shift in her stance whenever he spoke. They were tiny moments. Fractions of seconds, but Elias held onto them with the stubborn faith of a man who refused to believe the story was over. He started speaking to her of their past. How they first met in a crowded marketplace over a spilled bag of fruit. How she laughed when he tried to apologize. How she would talk about stars the city never let them see. He reminded her of the alley where they once danced under artificial moonlight. Of the time she saved him from being arrested. Of the words she whispered when she thought he was asleep. He kept talking, even when her golden face remained unreadable. The world around them didn't change, but he did. He learned patience. He found courage in vulnerability. And then, one night, everything shifted. A group of armed enforcers stormed the street, identifying him as a disruptive element. They advanced with weapons drawn, closing in on him. Elias knew this was the end. He closed his eyes, preparing for the inevitable. But the gunfire never came. Instead, a metallic hand gripped the leader's arm with inhuman strength. In the chaos that followed, Lyra, cold, golden, mechanical Lyra, stood between Elias and the soldiers, her glowing eyes pulsing with something new. Something foreign to her programming. She protected him. The enforcers, confused and terrified, withdrew. Elias stared at Lyra in disbelief. Rain streaked down her metallic face as she slowly turned to him. Her movements were stiff, hesitant, as if battling something within. And then she whispered. Her voice fragmented, glitching, but hers. Leah's. It was the first crack in her mechanical shell. The first spark of who she used to be. Elias felt the world stop. He stepped forward slowly, afraid to move too fast, afraid to break whatever fragile memory had resurfaced. From that moment on, Elias knew what he had to do: restore her memory entirely. But doing so meant infiltrating the facility where she had been remade, the core directive lab. A place rumored to be impenetrable, guarded by machines like Lyra, machines she once fought against becoming. Elias and Lyra, bonded by the faint ember of her returning memory, began the most dangerous mission of their lives. The city watched them through the falling rain as they moved through back alleys, hiding in the shadows, always one step ahead of the hunters sent to retrieve her. Lyra's memory flickered in fragments, moments of clarity followed by confusion, as if her mind were a battlefield of code and emotion. She remembered the stars. She remembered the marketplace. She remembered his voice. And sometimes, she remembered nothing at all. But Elias never faltered. He reminded her gently, lovingly, relentlessly. He held her metallic hand even when it felt cold enough to freeze his own. He endured the fear that she might vanish again, or worse, turn against him when her programming surged. When they finally reached the core directive lab, the sight was enough to steal breath. Towering steel walls, electric barriers humming like angry serpents, and inside, a vast network of minds erased and rewritten. Souls trapped in metal bodies. Lives rewritten by force. Lyra stepped inside the chamber where she had been reborn. The aura of the room seemed to awaken something within her, a conflict of memory and machinery. Elias activated the device he had stolen from a rogue engineer, a neural resynchronizer designed to restore suppressed memories. But the process was dangerous. If the system detected unauthorized reconstruction, it would destroy Lyra's core instantly. They had only one chance. Lyra stood still, golden and fragile in her strength, as Elias initiated the restoration. Light engulfed her body, flickering violently. She convulsed as old memories clashed with new programming. Elias shouted her name over the alarms, his voice shaking with desperation. She fell to her knees. Circuits sparked along her spine. Her heartbeat, once stolen, began to echo faintly through the chamber. Elias rushed to her, holding her as she trembled. Memories flooded her vision. Their first meeting, their last goodbye, the moment she had been taken. Her eyes, no longer cold, no longer empty, glowed softly. And then she looked at him with recognition so pure, so painfully beautiful, that Elias felt his heart break open. Elias, she whispered, voice steady at last. I remember. Tears streamed down his face. Warm tears that fell onto cold metal, merging into something that felt like rebirth. For a moment, they held each other as if the world beyond those steel walls didn't exist. As if love itself had rewritten fate. But the alarms grew louder. Soldiers stormed the entrance. The city demanded she return to the role they had forced on her. The world wanted to erase their love once more. Lyra stood up, stronger this time. No longer a machine. No longer a lost soul. She was herself. But freedom came with sacrifice. Lyra knew that if she stayed, they would kill Elias. She knew they would hunt them forever. So she made the choice she had once been denied. She stepped forward, shielding Elias with her golden frame. And she surrendered. But not to them. To love. She overloaded her own core, sending a shockwave that wiped the facility's control system, freeing every synthetic soul imprisoned there. The blast of light filled the air like a second dawn. Elias tried to reach her, screaming her name, but she only smiled through the brightness. "Remember me," she said. And then she was gone. The facility collapsed. The soaked streets echoed with silence. Elias fell to his knees in the wreckage, holding the last fragment of her, a golden shard from her arm. But Lyra's final act changed everything. Machines no longer obeyed the corrupt system. People rose. The truth came out. The city transformed. And Elias carried her memory into every new dawn, knowing she had rebuilt something far bigger than love. She had rebuilt hope. Right finger if this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support truly keeps emotional storytelling alive.